folks, do we really need a dedicated acoustic amplifier? Well, yes and no. Maybe, maybe not. If you already have an electric guitar amplifier, or if you don't want to spend too much money, there are alternatives. I'm playing this Yamaha flamenco model. I'm playing it through a Roland Cube electric guitar amplifier. Now, the Roland Cube has a very good clean channel, so therefore I can get a clean sound, and I'm reasonably happy with the sound I get. I do have an acoustic amp, but I prefer the sound of this guitar through the Roland Cube. The acoustic amp is not a particularly high quality one, and the only reason I have it, or did have it, was for very small gigs where I could do guitar and vocals, because it has a channel for a microphone with an XLR input. So therefore I can run a guitar and a mic through it for very small gigs where I just cannot be bothered to transport and set up a PA system. So, but there are alternatives. If you only, that's one application if you want to do guitar and vocals together and have a very portable unit. Yes. But my main beef with dedicated acoustic amplifiers is they're too damned expensive. Like most stuff in the music business, you know. And when I played bass with bands for many years, and I never had, ever did I have a manufactured bass amp. I made my own speaker cabinets because I wanted something that was powerful and also portable. So I was one of the first people to use 4x10 cabinets, and I made it myself because there wasn't one available. It was for 4x12s, etc. 1x18, you know, 2x15, all that. So, in fact, if I dare digress for a moment, I built myself a cabinet for bass, a 200-watt cabinet. I used a 100-watt PA head on it because there's plenty of headroom with no distortion, for years. And it was a cabinet with 4 10-inch speakers and a tweeter. Now, that cabinet, I could have used it for absolutely anything. You know, anything at all. Okay, I wouldn't have got, with that PA head, I wouldn't have got a dirty sound for electric guitar, but then you can use pedals for that. So, anyway, I'll get back to it. If you're only going to play guitar, and you have many electric guitar amps only have one input, so many small acoustic seems to benefit a bit more from smaller speakers than electric does. But anyway, the Roland Cube has got a 112-inch speaker in, which doesn't seem to be a problem. If you only want to play solo guitar, you don't want to set up a microphone, you only need one input. There are, if you choose the model of electric guitar amp correctly, then they will do the job perfectly well. Small practice type, if you only need very little volume, not too much, even if you do, you can always mic it up through a PA if you're doing a big thing. An alternative is smaller practice amps which have smaller speakers that actually would be a bit better for acoustic. But then again, the small practice electric guitar amps, it's almost impossible to get a clean sound from them because they're designed for, you know, rock stuff, and it's very difficult to get a clean sound. So you may not find that suitable, but an alternative for that in a small practice amp type thing is to consider a small bass amp. Now it may sound, you know, too much bass response. Not so. A small bass amp with a smaller speaker, the kind of speaker that really can't handle too much bass in actual fact, would probably do the job quite well. Sorry, I was just checking there that I had the damn microphone switched on. A bass amp will have plenty of headroom, no intended distortion unless you're overloading it. So a small bass amp could be a choice as an alternative, and a much cheaper alternative. The other alternative is a small PA system. That will give you the clarity, the headroom, clean sound, everything that you want from an acoustic guitar, and you could also put a mic through that as well, you know. So I've actually, so it can be done. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of money on a dedicated acoustic amp if you choose the alternative carefully and it suits the purpose that you want. Electric guitar amp that has a good clean channel on it, a bass amp with smaller speakers cabinet, not 15-inch speakers. Yeah, the small bass amp I said, small PA. All of these things can be alternatives for it. And if you have the Roland Cube, I actually love it because you can do anything with it. You know, for example, I took my acoustic amp on a gig once, where it was a dinner. It was a dinner thing with dancing after, with a band. And I was playing in the band. I played bass in the band, but I played Spanish guitar throughout the dinner beforehand, in the early part of the evening. And my friend, another guitarist in the band, he had a very old Fender Twin Reverb. And just as an experiment, I plugged this Spanish guitar into his Twin Reverb, and it sounded a damn sight better than my acoustic amp. Also, and I don't know this, but I'm a big fan of Pedro Javier Gonzalez, who plays anything from Rodriguez Concerto to playing Sultans of Swing with Tommy Emmanuel and his own trio as well. And when I've seen him playing with his trio, he always plays plugged in. You don't see a microphone in front of his guitar. He's plugged in to an N-pin jack. You can see that. And he's also got a feedback buster in his guitar. Still gets a wonderful sound. And every time you look at his YouTube videos, Pedro Gonzalez, behind him, the stage, there's an array of amplification stuff there, but I don't know. But there is a Vox AC30 behind there, every time. Now, I don't know if he uses that Vox AC30, but I wouldn't mind betting that that would be quite a good choice too. Well, they're not cheap these days, because they were never intended to be a dirty amp. It was only the severe overloading that made them the rock guitarist's favourite. So, yeah, there are lots of alternatives, and it's worth thinking about before you think, oh, I must rush out and spend a fortune on a dedicated acoustic amp. You don't necessarily have to. It depends on what your needs are, and the job can be done with all the alternatives I mentioned. I'll just finish off by unplugging this and put my steel string acoustic in so you can hear what that sounds like through the Roland Cube. It's going to be out of tune. That'll have to do just to save time. Of course, I've got to change the EQ on this for this guitar, so I'm putting on to the blackface model, which is the Fender Twin Reverb model on this. I'm going to change the EQ, put some more bass and middle on.